Are we ready? Well, welcome to the, I think it's August 4th policy session. And Gary, what's up?
Yes, we'll start with roll call this morning. Chair Bernard.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher. Here. Commissioner Humberston.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader is not yet with us this morning, but should be shortly. If you're ready, Chair, I'm ready to go through your issues list. First, coronavirus update. We have Nancy Bush, Director of Disaster Management and Incident Commander of the Emergency Operations Center, to begin. Go ahead, please.
All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you. So our numbers for today in Oregon, there's 19,366 positives. That is up 874 from last Friday. We have 328 deaths statewide, 397,765 negatives. Clackamas County has 1,421 positives, which is up 60 from Friday, 36 deaths, 38,494 negatives. Multnomah County has 4,497 positives, which is up 162, 93 deaths, which is up 6, 87,550 negatives. Washington County has 2,849 positives, which is up 109, 23 deaths, which is up 1, and 56,373 negatives. Statewide hospitalizations is 153, which is up 3 from last week that are COVID positive. Of that 153, 46 of those are in ICU beds and 26 are on ventilators. There's 170 adult ICU beds available statewide out of 768 that are staffed. And we have 782 ventilators that are available statewide. A few things that are going on, or some of our accomplishments for last week. We had 469 food boxes that were distributed. 81 showers for the houseless were provided here in the county. We had 11 Go Team events for behavioral health. We had 9 social media posts that had 3,046 engagements. In public health, we have a data pull from yesterday. Currently, they're working on 40 outbreaks. 14 of those are in the workplaces. 9 are related to food or farms. There's 13 long-term care facilities, and social and other is 4. We continue to work with the schools regarding their planning and working with them on what the governor has sent out for guidance and metrics related to schools. And we've been told that there's going to be a dashboard for that from OHA soon, but we have not seen that yet. And we have Aaron Schwartz and Kristen Ingersoll who have been working on that very diligently, working on the process as well as committing time to helping those schools. And I think that is all I have today.
I just want to add that we sent out a letter. You should have all received it. That was with input from Nancy and people like her in other counties, along with our health professionals like Dr. Present. We also included in there a request for funding for Clackamas County, and this was signed by the 3 chairs. So haven't heard back from the governor yet, and there's a lot, because Multnomah County is on the watch list. In theory, they should get more support funding, and that's what we're suggesting. And thank you, Nancy, for your input, and Gary and Dr. Present. And again, I want to thank you for your outstanding work. I don't know how you do this, but I don't know what we'd do without you. So thank you. Ken.
Yeah, I read where our elected contingent at the state level have also sent a letter to the governor requesting funding of CARES funding, $45 million for Clackamas County. So I think our all of our outreach to our congressional contingent or our legislative contingent was appropriate. Nancy, I did see, I think it was on a social media post, a problem at the mall, Clackamas Mall, of not enforcing the mask rule, and they have had a small outbreak there. I just wanted to, I didn't know if you saw it or not, but I wanted to bring it to your attention so it could be checked out, because if they're deliberately not enforcing the mask rule, maybe they need to be, maybe a conversation needs to be held.
Yeah, thank you. We did get that information, and actually our environmental health group is working on that.
Good. That's good to hear. Thank
Are
you.
we considering fining them?
I don't know for sure. I know that they've worked with them before, and so we're going to leave that up to Julie Hamilton and her staff.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions of Nancy? Paul, I think you're about to do that.
Yeah, so I was going to say, you know, as far as the town center that Commissioner Humberson just brought up, it seems to me that the general manager for the town center might have some influence on his tenants or their tenants as far as making them or encouraging them to comply. It seems to be in their best interest. Having publicity out there that there's an issue might be detrimental to all the businesses in there, right? So it's in their best interest to encourage that, it would seem. So if I might even reach out to him, I know him, I've known him for years, so I might just reach out and just make that suggestion and kind of get a sense of what's going on. But I think every business ought to realize that encouraging that is far better than to be in the newspaper that you've got an outbreak.
Yeah, I think you should reach out, Paul.
Yeah.
Sonia.
Okay, sorry. It's so funny when you try to move the mouse around and then it like, so when you went through the lists of all of where all the different outbreaks were coming from, it looked like there was less sporadic or can't be traced to a known case. And I know we'll get the numbers late Wednesday or, you know, for Thursday, but is that kind of what it looked like for?
Well, you have to remember some of the social and other, those
Yeah.
four, we don't know how big I don't know how big they are. So and some of the others, the workplace also may not necessarily have known to a known source. So, because it could be family members, you know, there's some other issues around that. So I don't know. I haven't seen early data on that. We're hoping that it definitely, hope definitely that it's going more toward that 30%.
And then my other question is, I really appreciate the strategy notes that we get. And I was reading them a couple days ago. Could have been a couple days ago. No, it's only Tuesday. I don't remember if it was last week or yesterday, but talking about what we are doing regarding childcare, schools, that we are really working with the schools. And I'm just curious if you can give a little bit more information about what the needs are that are percolating and what we're actually, how we're able to support.
Yeah, so of course we're working with them on the plans that they're required to give us and giving them some technical support there. But we are hearing some things from the schools too that, you know, it's like they need sneeze guards and those types of things. And some of that stuff we can't get right now. I mean, none of us can get it. So of course the school can't get it. They have a shortage of funds because their funding is getting cut. You know, how do they get PPE for the teachers as well as the students, and making sure the students have appropriate PPE, because now it's 5 and up that would need to wear a mask in school. I mean, and right now, of course, we're not going to be opening schools. We are at 35.6 cases per 100K last week, so it has to be 30 or under. But it's also just, you know, trying to figure out, it's like, when will we be able to open? When will those numbers be good enough for that? And working around issues too. We also have to work and try, and we're reaching out to the private schools because they're under the same order from the governor. And I think there's some confusion around that out there as well. So we're trying to work with OHA as well to get that information out to make sure that our private schools understand that they're under the same orders and they have to get the plans in and that stuff too. So there's a lot of moving parts there and there's a lot of stress around it.
Yeah, thank you for that. I've also noticed that we're doing more work around agricultural and food processing. Can you just give us a little more detail on what that means for us and how things are looking countywide?
So for that, we actually, in our liaison group, we have a liaison with those communities. And so we are able to give them some PPE to help them be safe, work with them on, and actually also some hand sanitizer for their workers and those types of things. So we are able to at least provide them with some PPE that helps them to keep things from outbreaks or people getting sick. And yeah, our liaison group works with them pretty closely to try, and public health, to try to make sure that if there's anyone who becomes ill there, that it doesn't become an outbreak, or, they do the testing that they need to do.
And then the increase in state dollars for that work, does that go through our emergency operations, or is that run through our county government? How's that work?
I don't know. There's an increase. There's dollars that are going to CBOs, and I don't know if that's the dollars you're talking about. It does not go through the county. And we're trying to figure out, what CBO received the funding and what does their contract say. And so we can try to pull it all together and work in one direction with our CBOs. And that is
wow.
in the Tri-County.
So the state is contracting directly, bypassing the counties. Oh, I don't know that that's very smart.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
Hard to coordinate when we're trying to run the emergency operations.
Yeah, it is difficult to coordinate. And the CBOs, a lot of them we were working with directly. So now we kind of have this other thing going on the side that we have to pull back in and make sure we're going the same direction.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Nancy. Like Jim says, we so appreciate you. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Paul?
Yeah,
I thought Martha had her hand up.
I put it down. It's okay.
Oh.
So I just want to comment. I did read the letter that the Tri-County chairs sent, and it's nice to have the inclusion there at the bottom about Clackamas County getting its funding, and I just think it's odd, and that Multnomah County, who got the CARES Act funding, that has a testing station, has a lot of means, far more means than we have, which is now on the watch list, is eligible to receive more funding, and we still haven't even really got ours, period. And I appreciate that the letter mentioned that, but it would just seem to me that maybe a standalone letter, maybe the ship's already sailed, but a standalone letter from the three counties saying that Clackamas County deserves or should have or whatnot their share of the funding would be more powerful than it would be to have it in a mixed message. I won't say mixed, but diluted, if you will, on that was a lot of bullet points in that letter. There's a lot of ask in there, and I just hope it doesn't get lost in the sense that the emphasis. I did really appreciate our state legislators, our caucus group, sending the letter. I thought it was a very well crafted letter. I just thought they did a great job of outlining that. And to have the three county chairs do something similar to that, to put right alongside it would be I think just a bit more powerful. That's all I want to say.
All right, don't see any other hands up. Gary?
Thank you, Nancy, very much. We are finished with our COVID updates. All right, moving on. Your business meeting agenda review for this Thursday, August 6, 2020. You have a Housing Authority consent agenda item on transfer of ownership of Arbor Terrace to Farm Worker Housing Development Corporation. You already had a policy session about that. And then you have a consent agenda, and that is your agenda. If you have any questions, please let me know prior to Thursday, and we can provide you information you may need on any of the consent agenda items. Next, advisory boards and commission appointments. Christina, would you please present?
There is one ABC for Clackamas County Community Health Center today. There were 2 applicants, and both of them are recommended by staff. The current roster holds 6 members. The first recommended is Leslie Cliff, and this is their first appointment. And the second recommended is Julie Wills, and this is their first appointment as well.
We'll move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the slate. Any further discussion? Will you please go ahead and poll us?
I will. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Humbertson?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
And Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next, Gary.
Next, tribal representation on the county's Economic Development Commission. You discussed this yesterday, commissioners, with your joint meeting of the Grand Ronde Tribe. But Commissioner Humberston, would you like to present your proposal, please?
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Just in thinking about the tribe actually having purchased the lands there at the Blue Heron site and having a significant economic interest now in how that goes forward, it just seemed to me to be absolutely appropriate that the tribe should have representation on our Economic Development Council. So I'm making that proposal to my colleagues. The tribe has indicated an interest and a willingness to participate. So I hope you will support it.
Okay.
Good. You guys good with that?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I'm supportive of that. One thing that has been brought to my attention, and this has in no way any infringement. I mean, we're good with having a member of the Grand Ronde tribes on there. I think it's a great idea. But there has been mention that we need a stronger business representation. It seems to be that there's been some comments that perhaps that has not as much, the makeup is not as business oriented as it once was, and we ought to maybe strive to bring that back. And so I just wanted just to make that comment. So I don't know what guidelines we have or policies we have about that, but it has been brought to my attention.
All right, I definitely think you can argue that the tribes is a business organization, but that's a good point. Gary, you have your hand up, and then Ken.
I do. So commissioners, would you clarify for the, so would it be a seat for the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde?
Yes.
Automatic seat on the Economic Development Commission. Are you seeking any member of the tribe? Should it be an elected official of the tribe, a staff member of the tribe, or would you like to keep that vague that it's any member of the tribe?
I'd
They're
say
a designee.
they're designee. Yeah.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, great. We will do that. And in answer to Commissioner Savas's question, we certainly can have our staff come back to you with what is the current makeup of the EDC. And if you commissioners would like to seek different business representation, we can absolutely do that. But I'd like staff to have the chance to come before you and share what the current model is, and you can tell us what you'd like to change.
So wait, Paul, I got Ken and then you.
Yeah, I was simply going to suggest that we ask PGA to do a recruitment if we have some vacancies that could be filled by business people. But Mr. Schmidt has made the point himself, so that's fine.
Paul?
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea. Again, I don't know what the criteria is, but it might not be a bad idea to at least designate some of those seats with a certain employee count. That would kind of ensure that we would have, businesses, because again, as a small business owner my entire life, I tend to believe that some people mistakenly think that when we talk about businesses, we're trying to help businesses, but it's actually the people they employ that are the biggest part of that. Just like the county, the biggest part of the county is the people we employ and the talent we bring and the services we provide. And I think that needs to be that needs to be spelled out maybe in the criteria a little bit better. Thank you.
All right. Gary, what's up next?
Chair, if you don't mind, I would recommend a formal vote so that we would have this for the record, that you are adding a seat, a dedicated seat to the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde to your Economic Development.
So moved.
Second.
And it's been moved in second that we set a designated seat for the EDC, Economic Development Commission, to the Tribes of Grand Ronde. So please poll us.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Humbertson?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
and Chair Bernard.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner Humberston, for the recommendation. Very good. All right.
It's a team effort. It takes 3 votes, and we got 5. I'm very pleased. Thank you.
Very good. All right, next is join meeting attendance and protest response, reimagining safety commitments. Commissioner Schrader asked for this item 2 weeks ago. I know all commissioners have been involved, so I'll give it to Commissioner Schrader to start the conversation.
Well, I just wanted to have a larger conversation of what this is going to mean for us. Because what I picked up last time I listened in on the meeting, was that, you know, they're really focused is on legislative work to be done at the legislature, I think in things like public safety. And I'm wondering if our county role also has to have a big education piece to it. So that was my question. Because I don't know, I'm not sure that they really, I didn't really pick up from the group that education right now was a priority. It was mostly legislation. So Paul, what do you think? Sonia, what do you think about that? You guys are all.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Martha, for that. I at the first meeting, that's what I really thought we would maybe see. But it was very, I thought they clearly stated, and you weren't all there. So in all fairness,
Yeah.
I'm not critical of anyone, but they did make it pretty clear that
That's all, yeah.
that was not their mission, and that's not what they were going to provide. And you know, there's been so much talk about displacement, gentrification, what used to be redlining, and things that actually have historical issues in Portland per se. But I thought that would be more of a conversation. But they seem to be going more towards some legislative efforts and changes, and you know, and you know, some very valid reasons. So I don't discount that or dismiss that. But I don't really think that you know, that education is going to be something that's going to be at the forefront anytime soon.
I would agree with that. So my question to this board, do we want to include some of that as we work with Martine just for our county? Because we will have to decide then when the legislature comes through with Chris Lyon, what we're going to support as we move forward.
I think Martine would be the person. Am I on? I think Martine's the person to ask. You know, I think education's key to this issue, and certainly I think that's our role in the county is to educate people on the issue of diversity. And we haven't really had an opportunity to sit down with her. And if we ever do.
We are. And I think all of us are at one point, are we not, Gary? I think we are.
Yeah, so actually she's in the waiting room if you want to bring her in. I'm going to put her on the spot. Our new county equity and inclusion officer, she literally started last Thursday. So yeah, she's going to meet with each of you commissioners one-on-one. She has a lot of work to do, and I want to give her time. She's her third day on the job, so let's give her an opportunity. Here she is, Martine. Welcome back to Clackamas County. But yeah, she will engage with you and support you through the next steps of this process you just engaged with. Martine, would you like to add anything to start?
Well, just that I appreciate you all bringing this conversation to the fore, and I absolutely agree that education is key, and that's something that our office will be able to provide in collaboration with you all. So. So that, you know, even if Reimagine Oregon is going one direction, we recognize the needs of our county and we can definitely address that.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm like glad you're a woman of few words. You get to the point. You do. You really do. Sonia.
Okay. Thank
you. So Martha, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying, and you're wanting conversation with our community to educate. Okay. I thought that the question for Reimagine, not for Reimagine, but the conversation that we had on Friday was really good. And that one of our key questions was, what are you going to be doing regarding the community engagement?
Right.
And so it's a huge piece. And I know we've got our listening sessions planned. We've got Coalition of Community Colors coming on, doing an assessment. There'll be opportunities to do community engagement. The piece about, reimagining safety, we've all are aware of our behavioral health unit that is there to support police. Well, there's a really awesome opportunity where there's consensus between law enforcement and human services that there are certain things that law enforcement don't want to do or shouldn't do in regards to social services. And I do think there's a tremendous opportunity for us to really lean in on that. And what does that look like for Clackamas County?
Right.
And I know that I'm sure you've all seen the BCC mail that we get regarding the Cahoots model, or what are we doing to send other people other than law enforcement on certain calls. We all know that law enforcement spends tremendous amount of answering for people who are homeless or things that don't maybe necessarily require a law enforcement response. So there's opportunities here for us to really look at what does this all mean for Clackamas County. And I know that Angie Brandenburg, our new sheriff, is interested and absolutely looking at wanting to engage in the conversation that some law enforcement wants to do. But this could be reimagining safety. I'm not interested in having less patrol. We already struggle with that in Clackamas County. But I am interested in not having our law enforcement do social work that they don't want to do and is outside of the bailiwick. So I think there's opportunity here with this proposal, and I would really like us to have Lamar come and talk to us about what the overall vision is and see where we might be able to tap in.
I think that'd be a really good conversation. Yeah, I think that would be really great just to see how that works, because haven't we done some breakthrough work? Because we did have embedded mental health folks in response, but has that been cut, Gary? That's been cut.
No, it hasn't been cut. It's just that those people been cut. It's just that those people were moved out of the sheriff's office.
Oh, okay. But they're still responding as a sheriff. Okay.
There's a real interest to look at all of that through our behavioral health folks, from the sheriff folks, from the unions.
Okay.
So I would like to see us really lean in on it from a policy.
We're jumping around here.
Do it.
All right. Okay. Well, that's all I'm done. So
Okay.
I just wanted to touch base.
And then Ken.
I just want to comment. There are cultures, people of color, that sometimes have an adverse reaction to a uniformed officer. It's just inherent.
Yeah.
We need to recognize that. And so I think having how that's done is important, and I think would be very valued. What I did want to talk about as it relates to reimagine is that the pattern right now, and maybe Martine can help with this, but if we're going to have a relationship with them and be involved, it would be great if we could be, as prepared as possible. But sometimes when the materials come late, like after today or on the day before, we have been caught. I won't say caught, but we found ourselves in a position where how do we convey board consensus on something when we do not have those opportunities? So if that's going to be, and then the meetings were supposed to be like 3, and then it's 4, and which is great. There's more opportunity, but I don't necessarily know that the way that it's not necessarily for them to change or necessarily for us to adjust. It's probably a question of how do we engage with that effort in a way that works for both of us. And maybe that's a bridge we can work on best. I don't want to just dismiss the whole effort. I just think that the way they're set up, it's just hasn't really been as organized maybe as it could be. That's all.
All right, Ken.
Two things, Mr. Chairman. One, a question to Mr. Schmidt. Do our mental health professionals that respond to requests from the Sheriff's Department respond at night as well as in the daytime and on weekends?
I believe so, but I can't answer that directly. But I know Rich Swift's in the audience. If you want to bring him in, we can answer that right now. So hold on just a second until we can bring in Rich.
Thank you.
Rich.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chair Bernard, Administrator Schmidt. So to answer your questions, just one correction I'd like to offer. We have not pulled staff out of the Sheriff's Office. We still have 2 FTE that are.
Okay, good.
Just to clarify, the reduction that we experienced was actually in the lead program, law enforcement assisted diversion. Because of the budget cuts, the sheriff was forced to reduce his offering in that, which was $80,000. So as it relates to 24/7 response, yes, we do have 24/7 response in the county in terms of mental health crisis.
Okay, that was one of my concerns, is to make sure, because in my experience, an awful lot of crises occur at night and on weekends, and
true.
not 8 to 5, which is when we're working. So that was a concern. The other is, I just want to keep this in the back of everyone's mind. We have significantly less patrol deputies today than we had 30 years ago. And what we have is 63 patrol officers. That's 3 shifts of 21. When you start considering vacancies, court appearances, sick leave, and annual leave, we have times when there is 1 deputy between Damascus and the top of Mount Hood. So I'm not of a mind to look at cuts in the Sheriff's Department that will affect patrol deputies. At this point, we are what I would consider to be a skeleton crew for patrol purposes. I'm not speaking above that. I don't know above that how the money is spent or whether they're top heavy or not, so I'm not making an accusation, but I just want to make it very clear that patrol and boots on the ground is first and foremost the responsibility of the Sheriff's Department, as is the jail. And I don't want to see us make any cuts in that arena. And that's all I have.
So if it's not a big deal, I'd love to hear kind of the responses that we've had in mental health calls, like how many, how often. If it's not a big deal to get those figures, it'd be great to know.
So we can pull that data and get that to the board.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Absolutely welcome.
Anything else on this, Paul?
So just on that, just on that one note, Jim, is that or is that not a metric out of MFR?
I think it is.
I mean, if not, it ought to be. It ought to be some kind of a metric as to how many people have been served. You know, that seems to be at least one logical one.
Rich, is it in your? It's not in the county's board's goal.
It's a metric for us for H3. Yes. It's within our strategic plan. Yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Sonia.
Yeah, and I just want to, Jim, with what you're saying, it'd be good to know about the numbers. It's also really interesting. I know we all have our relationships with law enforcement, but just, the day in the life of a Clackamas County deputy and what they're responding to and how they're spending their time. And we spent a lot of time talking to the sheriff. I find that really valuable, but it's also very valuable to talk to our deputies about what they're doing. Especially with so much focus on law enforcement right now, it's imperative that we are really understand what's happening.
All right, Ken.
I would like to suggest to my colleagues that you ask the Sheriff's Department to set you up for ride-alongs in the evenings, particularly on Friday or Saturday nights. Those are the best times to go. It's educational.
Many times.
Yeah, I figured Martha had. I wasn't sure if anybody else had, but I know they are very, very willing to accommodate us and show what we do or what they do.
Martha, let's finish this up. You're up.
I'm okay. I don't need to say anything else.
All right.
wanted to have let me lower my hand. Okay.
Gary, what's
All right,
up?
we're going to
Thank
move
you,
on.
Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Martine and
Thank you.
Rich. Appreciate your help. All right, finally is Commissioner Communications.
Who would like to start?
I'll go ahead and start.
All right, Ken.
There hasn't been much with tourism or the Fair Board, other than hopefully the Fair Board will get their movie theater up or the drive-in movie theater up and running this weekend. Stay tuned. I don't know yet. Lipsick met the other day, and community corrections has been impacted by our budget situation and particularly by COVID. The capacity of the Clackamas substance abuse program has been reduced from 50 to 30, and the facility where the women's program was housed had to be closed, and the women's and men's program were consolidated into a single building but separated from one another. So already we're seeing the impact on that program. The short-term transitional leave program had to be modified to wait until returning parolees were actually released from prison to have community corrections staff start reentry planning services with them. The contracted transitional housing has been maxed out. The pretrial program, there's been a dramatic reduction in the number of the people who are coming through the program, due in part to the court's limited capacity and the jail's capacity. The clients with substance abuse issues are struggling to maintain sobriety in this COVID-19 climate, and there have been an increase in relapses. Those clients that have to be employed have been placed in employment opportunities in spite of the economic downturn. So you can see that those programs that really help get people either through the system or back on their feet again are being impacted by COVID and the lack of funding. And once more, reiterating to anybody who will listen, the governor needs to release that $45 million so we can provide those services. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, you want to be up?
Sure. Yeah, last week, Wednesday, I did the listening session on transit. It was great. Mike Besner joined me, and we took some calls, and in some quiet times, we kind of responded to some of that. A lot of conversations right now. It kind of ties all together. Just want to give you all basically an update, a transportation update, and if you will. Transportation staff has suggested, and we've been working on subcommittees, if you will, ad hoc committees to try to navigate some of the ODOT activity as regards to tolling along I-205 particularly. And we've engaged the city staff, we've engaged a number of folks, and so part of that will be discussed Thursday night at C4, but it's just being discussed at every table. So it's really, really a hot issue. Last evening, the R1 Act discussed it. We had another presentation. So we're trying to put clarity where we can and guidance back, because the way, and this is the warning, this is really important for you all to understand so we don't get caught. The challenge with this is that ODOT is doing a two-pronged approach on this tolling. One of them is the tolling that would normally build a bridge or any kind of highway where you just toll it and then you use those monies to build the improvement, and then you defease the bond and the toll goes away. And then the other tolling is the value pricing, congestion pricing, demand pricing. And when you conflate the two together, it gets very confusing because the guidelines and the purpose changes, the messages change, and I don't think it's doing them any good. I pointed this out again last night. We had a lot of R1 Act has got a pretty good mix of representation on it around the region. So it's got a lot of regional stuff, including Hood River County. But I will tell you that there's in this point about transit, getting back to the transit element of this, is that I kind of use the word entrapment. It's really not the right word. But some people think it is a crime for us to drive a car or to own a car. That there's this anti-road, anti-drive car, but yet if that's the belief of the region, then give us the darn transit. And there isn't any. There is no transit along this corridor, and there is no alternative. And the diversion that's going to be created is greater than the diversion we already have. And that's a point that needs to be made, is that we have to realize that because I-205 is a bottleneck, the diversion that's affecting West Linn and Oregon City and Lake Oswego and Wilsonville is tremendous. And it creates a lot of risk and danger, and even can be. So I just want to alert you that this is not going to go away. This is something that is going to, as things are heating up, I've got 2 calls just that I need to call back today about people that are up in arms because they don't have a voice on some of these committees. So there's a number of committees. I'm hoping we can get some clarity on what they all are and who they all are. But I don't think ODOT, who is, really putting this all on, is gonna create a lot of opportunity for a lot of input other than to be presentations with some Q&A. So I think ODOT is doing a decent job of that. But the presentation's long, and we're gonna hear from our city leaders and our community about this. And just want to let you know that as it heats up and these committees are being formed, there'll be a lot more discussion about it. So happy to take any questions to clarify that, but that's my update for today.
Thank you. Sonia?
I think I gave all my updates during our conversation, so I don't have anything to add.
All right. Martha?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention I had a meeting with Andrew and Jody Bailey from the Willamette Falls Legacy Trust, because I know them both very well. And again, I was able to, as we had our conversation with the tribes, I could relay some information to them. And I do know that they're working on a letter to address the tribe's issues with the inaccuracies in the history. So I'm hopeful that that will all smooth over, but that's about anything extra I have right now.
All right. Thank you, Martha. I did talk to the director of ODOT yesterday. He called me. I have been talking to the chair of ODOT's Transportation Committee, along with Sue. And Sue, if you're on, you can hear my conversation. We talked about I-205, talked about the Rose Corridor, our desire, if the Rose Corridor is going to be held up, that we'd be happy to take those dollars and have our project done, since the planning and engineering will be done by the end of the year. He said that he's pretty much restricted by the House Bill 2017 to look at funding it only through tolling. So I mentioned that it would be great, and I'll talk to Chris about this and Sue about a committee, maybe with our legislature in Clackamas County, to ask the governor to create a committee to look at funding, look at how we can resolve this problem. The challenge is that revenues for gas tax are down 40%. That's $2 billion. And this does not include the Columbia Crossing. So it may be that all these projects and many others being considered are going to be delayed substantially. But it was a good conversation. I think it's the second time I've had an ODOT director call me. In House Bill 2017, the director called me and at least put Clackamas County in the measure. Not the way we wanted it, but at least we were being considered. Also, I talked about the importance of getting one project done before the Columbia River crossings invested in. Otherwise, the diversion will be terrible. But he feels that they could do both projects at the same time and manage the traffic. Maybe during COVID they could, but I can't imagine them doing it any other time. But anyway, I think we need to talk to our legislative folks and see if there is interest. We don't want to be slapped down like we were last time. Also mention that Paul's the transportation guy. And so, and that he knows Paul, and he's on the Region 1 Act And because I won't be here in the future, I think that it's good to make sure that Paul's heard and that transportation's still a big priority in Clackamas County. And what else? I also talked to Kurt Schrader today. What's that bill called? The locks are in.
WRDA, the Water Resources.
Or this, yeah, Columbia.
It passed, and the money for the locks, we were going to check and see how much money. I'm sure it's not enough, but maybe 2 million to stabilize the locks and then transfer the ownership. I don't know if that's been decided who would get the property.
We are still working on that, Jim. You know, one of the things I should mention is that we have had the Willamette Falls Locks meetings, and they're coming up with a strategy. And we had our executive team meeting. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of this. I lose track of the days at this point. And we will be having a full Zoom meeting with the group to see where we're going from here. We're really dependent on the legislature to pass that. We can ever get that legislation passed that sets up the framework where we can transfer the locks to. That's the real holdup.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's going to work now, given with what we're dealing with. That was our conversation was about with COVID and all the other uncertainty going on. So.
Yeah.
But if WRDA passes, that's good. That means, okay,
Yeah,
there is some fun for that. Yeah.
I think we've been working on that for quite a number of years.
Since I've been here.
And also like to add that with Congressman Schrader, we talked a little bit about the Metro measure, our concern about the timing, the funding mechanism since the economy's been so tough, and the fact that really the payroll tax was not a consideration until like the last meeting. Vehicle registration fee was one, and gas tax. So I'm not really sure. I think Metro did vote to put it on the ballot, and you know, I guess the citizens are going to have to decide whether they think this is a good time to do that or not. So I guess voters will decide. Paul, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on something you mentioned and appreciate it. With our staff have been working for a couple months in concert with Washington County staff to put together that committee that Jim was speaking to, and so having the chair of the commission basically speak to that and endorse it, help that along and help make the impression to ODOT and leadership. One thing that's come out, I just want you all to remember and clarify if you can. I know our staff are going to work on it, and that is that HB 2017 did not tie or make 205 contingent on tolling funding of it. It was not contingent on it. It was recommended to be looked at and studied, but it was not contingent. If you remember Senator Devlin, his note, the budget note that was passed during that legislation was very specific to that. So we've asked everyone to correct that and make sure that the legislative record and the history is accurate. And so we shouldn't be basically put in a position where, you know, we are trying to say it's us or the legislator made us do it. Well, not quite. And hopefully our Clackamas County caucus can help make that clarification where they can. Lastly, it's a little bit of good news. About 60% of the engineering has been completed on 205. I think it's about there. And they assigned Mandy Puntney, who is with ODOT, assigned her to be the project manager for the 205 construction project, not the tolling project. So things are in motion that suggest that, you know, this project's still moving forward.
Yep. Well, thank you. Gary, are we done till 1:30?
Correct. Yes.
Yay.
All right. Great. So we'll see you guys at 1:30. Thank you all very much.
Bye.